Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome back to our YouTube channel once again. And it is my hope and prayer that this video is actually going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I am fine, as you can see. Kisumu is also fantastic. And maybe you could also let me know where you are watching the video from, the county or the country, in case you are out of the republic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 100% sure that Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, is not a happy man this evening. I'm also sure that Ndindi Nyoro is also not a very happy man this evening, because the bipartisan team that is being led by Kalonzo Musyoka and Kimani Ichungwa have actually announced to the country that they've reached a deal on the agenda for the team. For those who've been following the politics of this country, very many Kenyans never believed that this team was actually going to agree on the agenda, because Kenya Kwanza came up with their agendas. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance also came up with their agenda. And that has been serious point of departure for both two teams. Today, they announced that they've reached a deal. And in this video, I want us to go through what they've agreed on. Because I've gone through that document, they've agreed on 13 issues. And for me, those 13 issues are good. They can resolve them. But personally, I strongly believe that if Raila Odinga is not careful and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, then they might find themselves in a trap. Because some of the issues, some of the 13 issues are actually very risky if they were to go and agree with them. Let us go through the document which was issued today. Let me just get it. The statement says, statement on issues for negotiations by the National Dialogue Committee in no particular order. So they're making it very clear that these issues, the order they are appearing here is not in preference in any way. So let me begin by the first item, which they are calling outstanding constitutional matters. Now, item number 1 on that, they're saying Article 43 of the Constitution, the cost of living and related issues. You know, Kenya Kwanza was very clear at the beginning that they were not going to discuss anything to do with cost of living, because they believe that Azimio wanted to take credit for the cost of living, so that if, for example, the cost of living will go down, then Azimio would take credit for it. And they also believe that the measures which William Ruto had put in place were going to resolve, or were going to solve, the issues of cost of living. But for Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, the cost of living was one of the top items they wanted to be placed. So by agreeing to this, I think Kenya Kwanza have really conceded. So that's the first one. The second thing they are saying, number B, implementation of the 2/3 gender rule. You know, when Kenyans fought for the new constitution, there was the issue of the 2/3 gender rule. It has become problematic to deal with. In fact, in the last parliament, I think the Supreme Court, and that actually what caused the bad blood between the former Chief Justice David Maraga and Uhuru Kenyatta. David Maraga declared that parliament unconstitutional. Even the current parliament is actually unconstitutional because it doesn't meet the 2/3 gender rule. So which means someone can actually just still go to the court again and declare that parliament unconstitutional. But how do you implement 2/3 gender rule when it's subjected through election? So that we have 10 men contesting, 5 women contesting, and then Kenyans themselves choose. How do you ensure that? So it has been problematic. I think they want to take this advantage to address that particular matter. Then number 3, they're talking of governance issues, including promoting national unity and inclusivity in public appointments. And number 4, they are saying adequate checks and balances. So basically, there's been this issue that Kenya Kwanza government is actually practicing nepotism. And there are evidence which are always there. But William Ruto is saying that his appointments are actually made based on merit. But there is no justification that since William Ruto took over office, the Ministry for Energy, for example, is now being controlled by one tribe. You go to Kenya Power, you go to, it's just not possible. So there's been that issue that at some point there were recruitment to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and out of almost 120 people, over 100 were from one community. So there's been that particular issue. And of course, the deputy president has always amplified it by claiming that the current government is shareholding. So that if you never voted for it, then you should not expect appointment. So I think by agreeing to this, maybe the Kenya Kwanza government would want now to be subjected to an audit. Or maybe they want to address that particular issue by coming up with a list of the appointments which they've made since they took over. Number two, and this is what I think Azimio should be keen on, and it's very risky: electoral justice and related matters. In fact, if there's one thing Raila Odinga must be keen on, is the issue of electoral justice. There is no need of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance supporters going to the streets, some of them dying. Then you create the office of the official opposition leader. Then you give Kalonzo, Raila, Martha Karua some offices there. Then it ends there. Electoral justice is one of the issues. And on electoral issues, they are saying, which is now item number 5, that A, restructuring and reconstitution of IEBC, the IBC. As we speak, we don't have IBC commissioners, which means a new commission has to be put in place. No shortcut about that. William Ruto had actually started the process of appointing new IBC commissioners until the Azimio demonstrations. So I'll be keenly watching some of the recommendations they'll be putting forth. Are the commissioners going to be appointed by political parties? Or are we still going to have commissioners elected or selected to serve as independent commissioners? I'll be waiting. I'll be keenly following that. Because if, for example, there's going to be an agreement that political parties are going to use commissioners, then elections will be rigged, or maybe someone interferes with it. Who will Raila Odinga blame? Who will Azimio blame? So that appointment is going to be key, the appointment or the reconstitution of IBC. And on the same, they're saying number B, boundary delimitation. This one here is also going to be fireworks, because the boundaries are ideally supposed to be reviewed. And if those boundaries were to be reviewed, probably Mount Kenya are going to lose several constituencies. And Mount Kenya would not want a situation where this one will be allowed. At the same time, William Ruto would want a situation where this boundary review is actually going to favor his politics. Maybe Rift Valley, those marginalized constituencies. For example, he can figure out, like, let's say in Kisii, which constituency can be split so that if it was ODM, then it can swing. In northern Kenya, places like Isiolo. Of course, Raila Odinga will also have interest on the review of the constitution, of the boundaries. I'm sure fireworks is going to be witnessed there. And now number C, which is the main thing for me, the audit of the 2022 presidential election. Why do you think Kenya Kwanza have finally agreed to this audit? Why? Because they've always maintained that the elections were free, fair, the servers were there. That is a very risky venture for Azimio. I'm saying this because we all know that last week we had a blackout in the Republic of Kenya. The longest blackout the entire Republic never witnessed. And when that blackout happened, it affected JKIA. An international airport did not have a backup generator at all. So what was happening at JKIA? Because I remember at that time I was in the village and we had some funeral. When power went off, we didn't have a backup generator. Of course, we had a backup generator, but it didn't have fuel. Very fast, mtu wa bodaboda alitumwa kwa market, akabai fuel, ikawekwa. In 30 minutes, we were up. Now we are talking of JKIA going without power the whole night. No generator. Some people believe that servers which were used to rig the elections somewhere outside the country, because Azimio strongly believes that the results which were being displayed to Kenyans at the Bomas were not the actual results, that they were being picked from a server which was being controlled by Jose Camargo. Those servers were being brought into the country in darkness. That is what people are saying outside here, not me. And where there is smoke, fire must be there. So probably Kenya Kwanza have now fixed the problem. So they'll tell Azimio, let us open the server. Azimio will get their IT experts. Server will be audited. Everything will tally. If I was Azimio, I would not demand for server auditing. I'll demand for server auditing and recount of votes. You get ballot box count. Because the other day I was listening to my friend Professor Manyora. He was like, another professor was telling him that for him, he comes from Eldoret, where he voted. He voted for Wajakoya the 5th. But when the results were announced, Wajakoya the 5th got 0 votes. Those are the cases we want to see. So there's doubts about the audit. And now the third thing they're talking about is entrenching funds into the constitution. Now then the CDF fund, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, and the Senate Oversight Fund. So I'm sure these ones here are being included just to allow members of parliament to pass these things once it's on their table. And also the last part, not really, number 4 is the establishment and entrenchment of state officers. Now the office of the leader of the official opposition and the office of the prime cabinet secretary. You know, Musalia Mudavadi is earning salary using an office which is not constitutional. His office does not exist anywhere. So I think William Ruto wants to put him in the constitution, because some Kenyan can go to court and it will be the end of it. And of course, you know, I've always told you that the people who placed Ruto in power, the British government and the American government, don't trust him. So they want Raila Odinga to check him. And they want the office of the official opposition to be created, so that Raila Odinga can execute some of his mandates as William Ruto rules. So Raila will be checking Ruto. And lastly, they are talking of fidelity to the political parties and coalition and the law on multi-partism democracy, preventing interference with political parties and coalitions. This is also going to be fireworks. For example, Ruto stated the other day that Jubilee was his party. Uhuru just took it from him, which could be true. I don't want to dispute that. At the same time, if you're keen, Raila Odinga and Azimio are telling Kenya Kwanza that they are the majority based on their numbers. That Ruto is interfering with their political parties. So they want those who are joining Ruto to do the honorable thing, resign. Like for example, they want Langata MP to resign and join Kenya Kwanza. Will that be possible? I don't know. Let me hear your thoughts. Thank you, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.